In this short video, I want to take a few minutes and just show you how to import your raw images into your Photoshop Elements organizer. Now folks, I have found if you're using a Mac, on the Mac itself with iPhoto, if you import these, it automatically wants to convert these to JPEG. Also understand from a lot of Windows users out there that the Windows actual Windows Gallery, I think it's called, will not even read a lot of the raw images. So I suggest that you just import them just straight into your Photoshop Elements organizers, because that way we are covering both Windows as well as the Mac. Now I wanted to go over here very simply with you just a couple of different formats that you're going to see, because I shoot with a Nikon camera. Now if you're using a Kodak, the raw format could be DCR, K25, or KDC. And what I mean by these, when I'm giving you these, this is the file format. So if you see like for instance, myphoto.kdc, you know that that file or that picture is a raw formatted picture. The next one for the Canon is a CR2. For an Epson, it's an ERF. For a Nikon, it's an NEF. For an Olympus, it's ORF. For Pentax, it's PEF. Panasonic is RW2. And Sony can be one of three, either ARW, SRF, or SR2. Now those are the basic file formats that you're going to see when you're importing your raw images. Then we're going to go ahead and import raw images, and the reason I wanted to do this in a video format, even though we may be doing this and showing this through my live show, is that I'm importing pictures today to work on them, and I wanted to go ahead and record this so we'll be prepared to have this for our live show. So this is one of those pre-recorded type little pieces. What we're going to do in Photoshop Elements, we're in the organizer. We're going to go to File, Get Photos and Videos. If it doesn't, it may automatically open automatically for you when you plug in your camera card to the computer, or when you plug your camera in. What's going to come up here is the photo downloader. The photo downloader is how we actually get the pictures into our Photoshop Elements, and I'm sure you've been using this over and over already. I just want to point out a couple key things that we need to look at. I like to use the advanced dialog just so I don't miss anything, and also because then I can select some pictures I don't want to import at this time. First thing I'm going to do is scroll down. You can see here already, you can see some NEFs, because as you know I shoot with Nikon. Those are my raw images getting ready to be imported into my organizer. Well, I'm going to go down here because there's some pictures down here that I do not want to import. And I believe they start here. And some of those I do want. Some of those I do want. And those I do. This I probably do not. Or that. So this gives you a nice way where you can make this selection. You can actually get rid of some of the pictures you don't want to be imported, because maybe you want to delete those off your card. And you'll notice that some of these are not raw format. Some of these are actually JPEG format, because you can mix and match. I'm just seeing what else I got here that I do not want. There you go. Now what we're going to do here is, I always like to import these into a custom name folder, and I'm going to call these, since the bulk of these are snow pictures, Snow Raw. Now you can call yours whatever you want, however you basically import your pictures is fine. It doesn't, there's no great way of showing you how to do that or anything for naming. Now what I want to do here now is preserve current file name in XMP. So let's do that, because we want to make sure that it stays as NEF. We don't want to take any chance of Elements converting that raw file into a JPEG format. I just don't want to take that chance. All of this stuff you can leave the way it is. Sometimes when I import, I do like to build a new album. It makes it a lot easier, so I'm just going to do that here. You can create a new album. We'll call this the same thing, Snow Raw. And hit enter. Click OK. Oops. Yeah. Should have put the N in there instead of the H. See, sometimes you start typing faster than you're thinking. And now I'm just going to simply click on Get Media. And that's going to actually import those pictures right in. As you can see, it's importing them as NEFs or a raw image. That's how we want to get those into our photo organizer as raw. Then once we have those, then we can open those up in the raw editor, and we can do a lot of different settings and different controls with those. And I will be talking to you and showing you that more during the live feed. So we're not going to show that here per se. This is just basically to get these imported, because like I said, I want to get these imported because I have some work to do on these for my own personal self. So I wanted to show you how to import these files from the disk. So let these get copied over. Okay, now just ask if you want to show the new media files in the media browser. And that's exactly what we want to do. So we'll click on yes. And it's actually pulling those files open. And it may take a little bit extra time loading these files up because these are very large files because they're raw format. So once again, the files are opening themselves up in our organizer. And there's quite a bit of these. There we go. Just letting these get loaded up. Now if I click on View, Show File Names, what that's going to do is reveal here to you that they are, in fact, they stayed as a raw format. Now if you open this in the Photoshop Elements editor, you can see right here that we're greeted now with the raw editor. At this part, we're going to leave off here, and I'm going to take it back away with you guys in the live show. So let's go ahead, and I'll see you back on the live show. Thanks for watching this short video, and let's get started editing some raw images. Bye for now. Okay, now that we have this opened in our raw editor, this is exactly what you'll be presented with. This is called the Camera Raw editor for Photoshop Elements. So when you open your Camera Raw or your raw image, it's going to open first. Instead of open directly in your editor with Photoshop Elements, it will open in this raw editor. The first thing I like to do when we're in here is I like to select this eyedropper, and what this does, this is the custom white balance tool. I take this eyedropper and I find something white, which on this picture with a lot of snow in it, there's a lot of actual white areas. So just pick one of the more defined white areas and click on it. And you can see right away that the picture is automatically adjusted to give us a better color balance based on that white sample that it picked up. Now we can also click on the white balance over here on the right, and you can choose whatever type of white balance you want. As shot, auto, daylight, cloudy, shade, tungsten, fluorescent, flash, or custom. Ours is selected automatically to custom because we use that custom eyedropper. Now, if you know, or even if you don't know, white balance is directly related to temperature of the light, is what white balance means. So if we take this temperature and slide it to the left and go more blue, our picture is becoming increasingly cool. It's more of a cool light. If we increase it and go to the right, we're going to find that our light is very hot. So it gives us that amber, that yellow light. Sometimes you'll notice when you're shooting in a gymnasium for a school or under fluorescent lighting, you end up with this type of a light. It's more of an orangey cast. If you're shooting in your house, maybe a birthday party, sometimes the light will be real cool in your house. So you actually come up with a blue tint. Now, there's a lot of information on Google. You can find, if you do a Google image search for white balance and temperature, you're going to find a lot of lists that kind of tell you what kind of light bulb it is, basically what kind of temperature it is. We're going to leave this set right in the middle. We can also adjust our tint right here to the left. We can make it increasingly green, or we can bring it up here and make it increasingly red or pink, because we're increasing and decreasing the tint of the picture. Now, under the exposure settings down here below this line, you see we have an auto or a default. We can use auto and it will take its best guess scenario to make that picture look like, what it feels it should look. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you the sliders. Exposure does just that. We can lower the exposure and make it a little bit more dark, and I really like that kind of style picture. When you're looking at the snow picture here, to make the background a little bit darker, not too much. I'll show you why in just a minute here, but we're going to make it just a little bit darker. We're going to just underexpose it just a little bit. Recovery and fill light, we're going to leave set exactly where they are. We don't want to add any fill light and make it any brighter, and we don't want to add any recovery and bring that up or down. So we'll just leave that where it's at. The blacks I do want to adjust, because the blacks are going to allow me to pick up and adjust the blacks in here even more. And again, this is why you have a lot more abilities to pull out more detail in your picture with Camera Raw than you do in JPEG. Because in JPEG, what the camera does is compresses all of this down and puts it in its best guess scenario. The brightness you can play with, but to me that's doing the same as the exposure, because you can underexpose it or overexpose it. So that's why I don't like to play too much with the brightness or the contrast. I leave those set where they're at. The clarity, if you pull this down, actually it smooths out the picture. It kind of gives it that Olsen effect. If you look at Olsen effect, and I've done some YouTube videos on that before. Or if you push it to the right, you can actually make it more detailed that way. We're going to kind of leave it in the middle. The vibrance, you can pull over and down and play with the vibrance. And the saturation, there's no color in this picture, but I can show you we could desaturate it, make it just a black and white. And we're just pulling that color tone out of it is all we're doing. And leave it right there. The next thing I want to show you right here at the top of this, there's basic, and now we're going to go into detail. If I click on detail, it's going to allow me to adjust things like sharpening. And there's some noise reduction. So let's go into the amount of sharpening. And again, with this particular picture, it's going to be really hard to see any detail come out in it. That's the radius. You have the detail. And you have some masking. The next is noise reduction. If you have a real noisy picture, you can use these sliders to try to pull out some of that noise and get rid of it. This picture does not have any noise because I shot it on ISO 100 and didn't pick up any noise with it. And there's also a color setting here. And it says right here, for more accurate preview, you can zoom the preview size to 100% or larger when adjusting these controls in this panel. So if you come over here to the magnifying glass, we can actually increase the size of this. So then you're looking at the more details of the branches when you're actually moving these around back and forth. especially when you're talking about the amount of sharpening. You'll be able to actually see the detail. On the last tab here is the camera profile, which you can use camera landscape, a camera natural, portrait. You could try these, just click in these. It'll show you a little bit different detail there. We're going to use the Adobe standard just to leave it the way it is. Again, that's camera calibration. Once you have everything set up there, we're just going to click it here and click on Open Image. And what that did at that point is it opened it up in our normal photo editor. Now it's still opened up here as a raw image, so we can just do further processing on it. When you're done with that, to get this developed, this is very important. Not a lot of people catch this. Never save a raw file and send it off to be printed, because they're going to send it back to you and tell you they're not going to print it. What I do is go to File, do a Save As, and just find a good place to save it. I happen to keep a file here called edited right there. You want to change it to JPEG format, and then come up here and just give it a name and save it. And here, this is making a very, very large picture here, because you see it's already 3.8 megabytes, because a raw image is always much larger in file size than a JPEG image. And if you see here, if we go all the way to the largest size, that's 21.1 megabytes for that one picture. So you would be safe by taking it back to 5, making it medium. That's 3.8 megabytes, and you're going to print a really nice size print off of that. Simply click OK, and it's going to save that out. And you're ready to go ahead and have that developed or printed off. I hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial and on creating a raw image. I hope you understand RAW a little bit better. And now you can set your camera raw and start shooting, and then start editing away. I do want to tell you, if you've liked this, I would like to say, if you liked hear what you've seen, then please stop by my website, jackstechcorner.com. I have a whole line of training DVDs with a ton of information and learning on there, so you can learn even more about how to use your Photoshop elements. Once again, thanks for coming, and I hope you learned today. I'll see you back here next time for another video tutorial on Photoshop Elements. Bye for now.